this is Aoife and this is the Happy Weight podcast. Thanks so much for joining me. Today's episode, I want to chat about people pleasing and how that drive to be such a people pleaser can actually really affect our emotions, which really affects our eating, which really affects our weight. I was in Skibbereen there, right? I was in Thornhills. I came around an aisle, it's quite a small shop, and there was a French family at the till buying something, and I was like, oh, sorry. And I was so annoyed with myself because I had just been talking to my friend Suzanne last night, and we were chatting about Irish people's urge to say sorry all the time. And I was saying to her, I'm literally bored of the word sorry. I'm literally bored of hearing those words come out of my mouth because I say it unnecessarily so many times. And she does Kinsale food tours, and she was saying she sometimes is telling tourists about our history, Irish people's history of over apologising for themselves because of colonialism. And it all makes sense when you see it through that filter. But even in the shop there, that French family, I didn't touch them. I didn't go near them. And I could see them looking at me being like, why is that woman saying sorry? And what's funny about it is I was buying a doormat. And I think that's pretty ironic. It's not a big deal, obviously. You could have a lot of high self-esteem and still be in that habit. But I do think it's indicative of something. Because say to that French family, because I didn't touch them, I didn't go near them, what was I apologising for? Being in their presence? It's a wild thing. But anyway, here are the things, right? And, obesity, overeating, overweight, underweight, all of this stuff is has a lot of complex symptoms and reasons as to why we would have issues with our weight. And that's why if you ever hear anyone say, it's about eating less and exercising more, laugh at them, because that is about the most ignorant, uneducated thing you could ever say about eating or weight problems. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'll try and get Jack to insert here the picture of the complex web of causes for overeating, weight issues, eating issues. It's this huge spider web of things that can possibly create issues for us. And so equally with today, right, you could have eating and weight issues and you might not be a people pleaser at all, especially because a lot of my clients are women and a lot of the clients I have are mothers. We're socialized even as little girls to be good girls. And being a good girl means, suppressing your own needs, your own opinions, your own whatever to keep other people happy. And even in uni, actually, we learned that another contributing factor to why women have more issues with eating and weight than men is because we are socialized to be good little girls. It is so odd when you think about it. Imagine telling your little girl or your niece, oh, don't go to the toilet. Be a good girl and don't go to the toilet when your bladder tells you to. And that's kind of what we do with eating. It's finish your plate even though your belly is saying it's full. Eat something even though you're not hungry. And this is the whole thing. Little kids are pretty in tune with their signaling. You can't force breastfeed a baby, as far as I know. Children under 7 are the most likely to be a healthy weight. And that's because they are so internally focused. They really feel and notice those signals of full, hungry, taste, etc. And then it's when we move away from all of that and we go to what's normal, what we should be doing. Then I deal with, say, 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds who've spent 50 years dieting, thinking about what they should be eating, what they're meant to be eating. And I think it's almost funny how a kid under 7 with no education could have a brilliant way with food and with their weight. And then basically the longer we are in life, the longer we are taking all this external information about food, the more it messes us up. So there's that people pleasing element, that being a good girl thing that a lot of women have just always had and have been raised to be. And the second thing about being a woman or being a mom or being a wife is huge risk there for martyr syndrome, doing everything to do with the house, still going out to work, doing the lion's share of stuff with the kids. And martyr syndrome basically is pouring from an empty cup. So we don't have the energy to do certain jobs, but we do them anyways. And all of these things are things that come up again and again and again when I'm working with people who've got overeating issues, because I think it's really it's really important, right, to work backwards from, say I've excess weight, right? So that means there must be some overeating going on somewhere. And maybe there's overeating we're aware of. Maybe we're aware that sometimes we do emotionally eat, we comfort eat, we binge eat. And then so the origin behind that is an emotion. And this is why people are absolutely wasting their time when they're following a food plan. Because it's like, okay, so what are you going to do? Just grin and bear emotions and just white knuckle it, use willpower and just follow the plan. And then what? Then what? Do you know what I mean? Like, even if you lose the weight, what happens then? You just suppress all emotions for the rest of your life. We need to kind of see that, if I'm overeating or emotional eating, especially if you look at it that it's not as if you're doing it every minute of every day. There's probably spikes in it. There's probably certain times of the week or certain situations. And then we have to work backwards to, okay, how was I feeling before I'd done that? And then can we see any pattern in how we're feeling in terms of what we were thinking before that to cause that feeling. So someone was telling me the other day that they noticed, it's a lot of stuff is subconscious with overeating. This woman was telling me that she was kind of leaving work, walking into Boots, buying a share bag of Maltesers, eating the bag of Maltesers on her way home from work. And she noticed that the 2 times she had done that last week, she was thinking about this female colleague. So obviously she had kind of some version of annoying thoughts about this female colleague. So this is why it's like feeling guilty about the Maltesers is kind of missing the whole freaking point. It's kind of like overeating is always a result of a problem. Overeating is not the problem. It is the result of a problem. So there's a few things that I'd like to go over today. And I kind of think it's just good to be aware of all of this, right? So especially if we see eating and weight problems as a science where there's a lot of research done about it, you can let this information flow over you and some of it might apply to you. Some of it might not. But I think what's great about being educated in this area is we can know about things and then look out for them. Then am I doing a bit of that? You know what I mean? And as always, awareness is the first step. Once we see, oh my God, I am doing that pattern she was talking about, that's super helpful because then we can change the pattern. So I suppose the first one is saying yes when you mean no. So a classic one of that for my female clients would be their husband wants to go out for a bike ride on a Tuesday evening with the lads, with his group of cyclists. The woman is exhausted, has had kids pulling at her all day, is wrecked, hasn't seen her friends in days and days and days, could really do it a bit of help. But I suppose also what comes into people pleasing is that cool girl mentality. And that can happen whether you're single and dating or whether you're in a relationship and a long established relationship, because cool girl mentality is like, oh yeah, I'm a cool girl. Yeah, go for your cycle. I have no needs, and that can eat into you. That can start the spiral again. You're giving from an empty cup. So you're minding those kids with no support for 2 more hours or even an hour and a half. And in that hour and a half, it could have been a big help if the father was around at the same time. So I suppose also I kind of think this is a checking in with your feeling afterwards, because sometimes we feel violated by people, but a lot of the time it's because we violated ourselves, we neglected ourselves. Say if we were in a day or an energy state or a mood where we absolutely needed support, and then we said to someone, no, you go off, I'm fine. That's us neglecting ourselves. That's us violating ourselves. Same with us doing something we're not comfortable with just for someone else's perception of us. And that's us violating ourselves as well. And, again, with eating, sometimes we're kind of conscious of the mood we're in, but sometimes it's deeper down than that. So sometimes the whole feeling mistreated, feeling hard done by, feeling like a victim, feeling undervalued, they're the kind of things that we will notice maybe later. Oh my God, I'm eating a lot more, or how come my dinner wasn't enough, or how come my dinner and my dessert wasn't enough? How come this dinner and dessert was enough for last night? And now tonight, I'm like, no, I need something else. I need something else. I need something else. And sometimes that can be emotional. I suppose the next one is assuming mind reading. So that's real victim mentality. Is again, there's two ends of the spectrum. There's setting boundaries, which is you are setting expectations for the person. You are making clear lines on what you will tolerate, what you will not tolerate. The polar opposite, I would say, of setting boundaries is assuming someone should know. And what's really passive aggressive is assuming someone should know and then being pissed off at them for doing something wrong, but you never actually had told them how you wanted them to do it or something. So I think that's another one that we have to be really aware of. Because again, if we're assuming people are mind readers, and if we're even going down the route of if they loved me, if they respected me, they should know this. I'm like, no, because we're all different. We all have different upbringings, values, whatever else. So it's like we have to stop assuming. And I actually have this card deck, The 4 Agreements, and it's a really, really good book. And it's just 4 principles. And one of them is like, don't assume. And it's actually a really, really powerful one. A lot of our bad moods come from assuming what someone is thinking, assuming what someone is saying about us, and assuming if someone's not doing something, it's because they're intentionally trying to hurt us. So again, all of this can be happening inside of us. What we need to remember is that eating and weight issues happen in between meals. It's all the negative emotions we're conjuring up, as well as, of course, food noise and all of that. We change on the inside first. You have to change on the inside first in order for your external to start looking different. So our kind of daily environment in our mood, in our mind, how's that feeling? Is our mind a nice world to be in, or is it an awful world to be in where we're victimized, mistreated, overlooked? All of that kind of has to move to a nicer space in order for us to reduce comfort eating and then reduce our weight. So say with that woman who was eating the Maltesers and Boots, I remember that for myself in previous jobs. And because I suppose at that point I'd figured out that my weight equals my comfort eating equals my mood equals how I decide to look at things. Even if my boss was annoying me, I remember there was a phase that, first of all, I was like, I don't deserve to be a size bigger at evenings and weekends just for the sake of my boss. Like, I won't give them the soot of that. And then the second thing is always seeing things from their point of view, actually seeing how maybe they're the victim. Like if you were to look at things from your boss's eyes or your colleague's eyes or your partner's eyes, how are they hard done by? And I think like absolute bonus point for the non-victim mentality is that saying that everything that's missing from a situation is what you're not giving. So if you're kind of like, my partner isn't showing me enough attention, it's like, are you showing them enough attention? And yeah, I'll actually come on to that in another way right now, because there's some examples of types of people pleasing that we do. And now I'll come on to the emotions that really drive overeating and comfort eating. If our status quo is pissed off, or like feeling pissed off is a quite familiar feeling, I would say personally anyway, that would create a high enough risk for needing to medicate with some fat and sugar. So underappreciated, undervalued, and things being unfair. And again, everything that's missing in a situation is what you're not giving. If we were to look at it like that, it's like, okay, underappreciated. I feel like people are not appreciating me. It's like, are you appreciating yourself though? Because when I'm working with eating and weight issues, 90% of the time it's low self-esteem, bad self-talk. So it's like, are you really saying things like, are you looking in the mirror multiple times a day being like, I appreciate you. Oh my God, this morning was tough and you got it all done. Well done. Or it's okay, honey, you're doing your best. Like, are you appreciating yourself and are you valuing yourself? Because it's back to that old chestnut, like, don't expect other people to do what you're not willing to do. Like, you are the biggest advert for how you want to be treated by how you treat yourself. And I think that's such a freaky thing as well with parenting, in terms of like say if a mom or something spoils and spoils and spoils the kids and does everything for them and they've no chores, they've no nothing, like actually what the children will learn is treat yourself like a doormat, because they're just watching their mom being exhausted and still working. They're noticing their mom feeling no but saying yes. It's like words don't teach, actions do. The child is picking up on how you treat yourself, and that's what they're going to treat themselves like. The next emotion is that things are unfair, and unfair is a dangerous territory to spend any amount of time in mentally. It's the polar opposite of empowered. And I love that Esther Hicks, the emotional guidance scale, I always use it with clients. Basically at the bottom is like disempowered and powerless, and at the top is joy, empowerment, freedom. And I always use this emotional guidance scale with clients, because I'm like, if you're in the red, if it's like weight gain issues you suffer from, you're definitely gaining weight. And if you're in the middle, if you're at bored, you're probably not making things worse, but you're not making things better. And then when you're empowered and enlightened and joyful and all of those things, you're definitely treating yourself well. First of all, there won't be any victim attitude. There won't be any throwing your body under a bus. There won't be any sense that you deserve to go to bed over full, or you deserve to leave restaurants feeling sick, or you deserve to stay at home on a Saturday and just eat processed junk. There will be a kind of a higher self-respect in all of that. So that's another reason why I suppose the unfair thing is definitely not good with eating and weight issues. And so I kind of think if we're susceptible to thinking, oh, work is so unfair, I'm treated way worse than everyone else, or in the friend group, she never gets on to me and she gets on to everyone else, or if you're doing any of that singling yourself out, I think it's a big risk then to spill over into how you see your eating and weight. So you'll be kind of like, wow, that's so unfair. She never goes to the gym and she's slimmer than me. Or, you know, there she is eating her chicken nuggets. I never eat chicken nuggets and I'm way bigger. And it's like, you really don't want to go down that path, because the other thing is looking at your eating and weight all week through the goggles of it being unfair is a very different week and zero opportunities compared to someone who's like, hey, I'd say there's room for improvement. And like, when I think of like, say, the healthiest people or the sportiest people, if I was to ask them, hey, do you think there's any room for improvement in, you know, your eating or exercise? I'd imagine they'd say, yeah. So anyone who's not too much of the victim mindset, especially definitely me anyways, I can see 1,000 things that I could improve in my eating and exercise. So saying stuff like, it's so unfair, I do everything right, and how am I this weight? Don't spend a second there, because every second you spend thinking it's your age, thinking it's your childhood, thinking it's your metabolism, whatever, is a second lost of seeing an opportunity where you could improve, where you could feel better. And just keeping in mind, anything that you do that makes you feel emotionally, physically better is helping with your weight. So if your body is in any increment feeling better than it was half an hour ago, feeling better than it was yesterday, say mentally, that is you on your way to your ideal weight. The third point, we covered kind of how to identify all the people pleasing and martyrdom that we might be doing. We covered the emotions that cause comfort eating. Now the third one is recovery. So I suppose the first one is, like I said, awareness is the first step. See when your mind is tiptoeing towards thoughts of, I'm hard done by, I was taken for granted, blah, 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 blah. And don't go there. Think about it, I suppose, if you're in that situation again, what could you vocalize? What actions could you take to prevent being treated like that, prevent feeling like that again? So I think recovery from all behavior, same with binge eating, same with anything, depression probably, I'm guessing, is that one of the biggest changes is that you spot it coming sooner. So especially in emotional eating, we want to notice sooner when our temperature is starting to drop, when we're going from feeling well to really not feeling well, because as our mood goes down, our eating will come up. So we want to catch those thoughts and moods earlier, and like nothing changes until you change things. So you have to interject and change your day in a way that you normally would not, so that in 2 hours time, you're not in the usual mood that you'd be in on a day like that, if that makes sense. And then I suppose what's super important as well is our own like cheerleader, that we are our own biggest cheerleader. So I suppose for me anyway, I feel when I had binge eating, when I was 3 stone heavier, my mind was just a constant critic, really judgmental, always talking me down. And you know, that is a Michael Singer, and he's got that book, is it The Untethered Soul? He just calls that narrator, or whatever you'd like to call it in our mind, that chatter, that incessant chatter, as the annoying roommate. And I'm like, that's actually the perfect way of describing it, because I remember I'd be washing the dishes and it's like, you're a fat, useless failure that always will be a fat, useless failure. And it's like, can you imagine living with someone, you're there washing the dishes and they shout that out from the back room, or they shout that out from the kitchen table? It's like, whoa, like, what did I do to deserve that? I'm just washing the dishes. And so I suppose seeing that narration as an annoying roommate and not believing it, I think another important one with that is, if we can hear it, that means it's not us, because you can hear me talking. That's how you know it's not you, if that makes sense. So we want to create a whole new voice now. And that voice is encouraging. It's also acknowledging our work. And so it's like, if we're tired after 2 hours work, I remember my mind used to be like, yeah, well, some people are doing that 2 hours work and they've kids and they've no sleep and they've a business and they've gone to the gym and and it's like, no. If you've done something that was hard for you, or something that you're tired after, it's like, acknowledge that, take comparison out of it. It's like, comparison is the thief of joy. It's also the thief of self-care. And it's also the thief of, like, you know, encouragement and compassion and self-love. So creating that alternative voice that's really, really soothing. And I suppose see that all as a calorie drop as well, right? Because it's kind of like, okay, we know disgruntled, awful emotions can lead to comfort eating. So imagine that every time you're self-soothing, every time that you're saying, oh, pet, well done. Oh, honey, that was hard, but you got through it. Or it's okay. Everyone's on some type of a journey. You don't need to have it all figured out right now. Like, whatever nice things we can say to ourselves. Like I said, I kind of feel it's like you changing your average internal feelings and the average mood on the inside is what's going to change you on the outside as well, eating wise, behavior wise, weight wise. So I hope today's episode was helpful, and thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you again.